I'm interested in dehydration during cold weather rides. I just finished a ride where the weather didn't cooperate. It was 52 degrees and raining the entire time. That sounds freezing cold. Combined with windy descents, it was quite chilly. And the ride was 106 miles with 9,500 feet of elevation gain and about 7 hours total. I only drank 1.5 bottles, maybe 30 ounces. That's crazy for that long of a ride. That's insane. And he mentions that he urinated 3 times. And he says he never felt thirsty. I got so cold when I stopped to pee. He says, I got so cold when I stopped to pee that I stopped drinking to prevent peeing. Urinating on myself had occurred to me, but the situation wasn't that dire. Thank you, Ryan, from all of us, including, hopefully you're the one that does your laundry, but yourself as well. He says, after the ride, I had a massive headache. I had eaten about 1,000 calories and about 350 grams of carbs from gels, bananas, and fruit bars, so I don't think food was a problem. Was I dehydrated? How do you consume enough water in cold weather if you have to keep relieving yourself? Thanks for everything TrainerRoad is. I can go further, faster than ever before. It's good to hear, Ryan. That's the goal, make you faster. Okay, so fluid loss still happens in cold conditions, even though you aren't as, it's very apparent when it's a really hot day and you're sweating a lot and it's dripping off of you and there's sweat stains and all that stuff. And we think, man, I'm really losing a lot of fluid. And then when you're in cold conditions, you don't see those signs. So you assume, well, I'm just not losing fluid. And while you may not be losing it at the same rate, you still are absolutely losing fluid, whether it's just through respiration, whether it's you're still sweating in the stuff that you're wearing, it's just not as apparent. So it still happens. And then the one thing that concerns me in this case too is when you eat 350 grams of carbs and you're talking about the osmolality of your stomach and being able to process that food effectively, there are things like Science and Sport gels, I think Marten stuff, and I'm sure other products too that say that they're basically isotonic, so you don't have to take in water to break them down efficiently. But if you're taking in that sort of 350 grams of carbs, you need to be taking in, especially with solid foods like that, you need to be taking in water to be able to help process that even. So, but my assumption is definitely dehydrated. I don't know where you sit on this one, Amber.
Yeah, I would guess that you're dehydrated too. And I'll just throw this out as a suggestion. So riding in the cold, especially when it's raining, is really hard. It almost doesn't matter how well you're dressed in that circumstance. It's going to be cold, and just keeping moving can help keep you warm. But one of the things that is interesting is with higher levels of exercise intensity, your body increases its levels of antidiuretic hormones. So those can affect how frequently you feel the urge to pee. So actually riding at a slightly higher level of intensity could potentially help with this. And if it is that cold and that rainy out, you might get as much of a training benefit out of doing a few hours with some sweet spot or threshold work. So you're doing shorter length of time, but a slightly higher intensity. So you'll probably be better able to take on water, stay hydrated, have to pee less frequently, and maybe still get the same training adaptation. So that might be one thing to consider. And I'll just share a story that in the Pro Peloton, most of you are aware that the men are perfectly capable of peeing off the bike while moving. It's a lot more difficult for us ladies. So there were occasions where we would actually do like a full Peloton pee stop. And the etiquette with this is, this would usually only happen during a stage race. It would almost never happen during a one-day race. But the etiquette is you have to check with the GC leader. And then the GC leader is the person that says, okay, I give permission to the Peloton to have a neutral section where we can all pull off to the side of the road and pee. And I tell you, this would never happen unless we were at a part of the race where we were going very, very slowly. And there's one stage of the Tour of the Gila, which is the very first stage. It's a very, very long stage. And then at the very end, there's a massive, massive climb. And it's been well established over the years that extremely difficult, if not impossible, for a brake to stick on this course. And everything comes down to the final climb. So everybody is wisely conserving their energy for the end of the race. And there's this really long stretch where nobody's really going to waste any energy. So we're kind of going on along at a very easy pace. And that almost every year there's a pee stop there for exactly that reason. So going a little bit harder and maybe incorporating some interval training and maybe shorter rides, it might actually help.
So this situation seems like a spot where you drink a lot coming into the ride, and that's the reason why you probably have to go to bathroom throughout the course of the ride and relieve yourself. And it's interesting because a lot of the time you just perceive that, well, if I'm peeing a lot, I'm really hydrated, but that's not necessarily the case. So dehydration is different than just in overall fluid levels. We've talked about this in plenty of times with salt. You can see the podcast that we've done with Precision Hydration's Andy Blow, plenty of other ones that we've done, just Google that. So even though you have to go pee, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are really hydrated. So that's a good thing to probably cut off right there. Nate, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say exactly that. So Ryan, you said you had water and then you were eating gels, banana, and fruit bars. Bananas and fruit bars are probably low sodium, maybe a little bit in your gels. I don't know how many gels you had, but I would be putting salt in your water, and then it will make it more likely to absorb, and you're probably going to pee a little bit less. We've all had that where you drink water and it just goes right through you right away. And then depending on where you were coming into this too, you could be low. So again, we're not sponsored by them, but I like Precision Hydration. Chad likes Precision Hydration. Listen to Andy Blow one. It's hard not to like them after what Andy says, but you can get a low calorie and then different levels of salt in there. But I would try that, Ryan, and see if that then makes you pee less on your ride.
An easy way to do it is they have like little salt tablets, and you can get salt tablets in plenty of different ways. It's just they come in like a blister pack from Precision Hydration, which is really nice because it's like Jersey approved, so to speak. If you're sweating or anything else like that, it's not going to fly out. And the final point that I would put there, if you're riding for 7 hours, like we talked about earlier in terms of like what we plan to drink in those sort of cases, even if it's like a day where it's really cold and I'm not sweating a lot, I want to be able to say at the end of that ride that I drank 7 bottles, right? Like that's what I would do. A bottle an hour on a cold day, maybe. If it's anything that's warm or hotter than that, I'm probably going to be doing even more. So
we got to talk about the elephant in the room here. Ryan, why are you doing a 7-hour ride in cold and raining conditions? Like, it's not a race. There's no races. Like, why are you doing that?
It's
like,
a great
wait
point.
a day.
Yeah. Do 3 hours with some sweet spot. If that.
I know, exactly. I was going to say, like, this sounds too like a clothing issue, but the rain is different. But in general, if it's 52 and you're getting really cold, like, get some wool, right? John, will wool have helped in this situation? Probably.
Inside joke if you haven't listened to the podcast. Yeah.
But I mean, some vests, you can do clothing that you can take on and off, where the stopping for peeing over 7 hours, like if you didn't pee over 7 hours, I'd be extremely worried about you.
For sure. Yeah. You're in trouble if that's the case.
But so I would, pee, get enough clothing, but and don't ride 7 hours in the rain. Like, of course it's going to be cold.